Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from Sportsnet, who's here on time today. So we don't have to go through the what took so long question as deeply as we have in the past. Although I'm kind of feeling like maybe I should punish him and not allow him into the show for a little while after the shenanigans he pulled last game. But there's no point in doing that. Let's enjoy what's happening out here. Everyone's snuggled up inside. The snow's going outside. Actually, I haven't been outside since 3 o'clock. I'm kind of anxious to see what's waiting for me out there. But let's not delay any further. It's maybe the best part of the Kenny and Renny show, which is not even created by, it's part of the show not created by Kenny and I, but this is as good as it gets. Here comes Kenny, the best intro music, I think, in Canadian media, North American media. Let's just play it. You judge for yourself. You tell us what you think. Here you go. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Ken Wiebe, with the hottest of takes and the loudest of wake-ups. It's going to be a great show, and it's going to get to be a really great show here, Ken, because we got two special guests. Back by popular demand will be our main man, Sammy Cosentino, who we're excited to have back. Everyone loved having him here. And Harnarayan Singh is going to join us as well, so you are going to get the entire Hockey Night in Canada crew jumping in to Kenny and Renny, because that is the place where the big names go to hang out after the game. Ken is Kenny and Renny, although Kenny is still the biggest name of them all. Ken, how are you doing this evening, my friend?
I'm doing awesome. Why don't you take off your overcoat and stay a while, my man?
I'm cold.
Sorry, you're at ice level. Yeah, sorry. I thought I was the diva in this relationship based on your early words.
Well, you are, but you know what? I actually put the overcoat on for the entire game.
Yeah.
Because my core temperature goes down, never gets back up. I don't know what I'm facing out there tonight. I'm not the best driver, Ken, so if I don't make it home, I can't start cold if I get stuck in a snowbank somewhere. So we're not going to go down that road. But Ken, how are you doing tonight, and what'd you see?
Tremendous. Well, what I saw was a Jets team that was running into fits from the structure of the Los Angeles Kings for the majority of the first two periods, especially the second period, where the Jets were limited to, I believe, only 3 shots on goal. 2 of them came in the same flurry from Pierre-Luc Dubois. I know that Paul Morrissey was leaning on the positives of the zone time, but I didn't find their chances to be very dangerous at all through 2 periods. What I will say, Sean, is the Jets found a way to stay patient. A less mature team would have probably forced themselves into making mistakes and probably turning over a few pucks and leading to a couple of odd man rushes. But what I saw was a team that hung in there, and after a penalty that was interesting to say the least, we've noticed that the reduction of the standard of the cross-checks has been reduced during the last little while, but Dubois gets a penalty after one that was kind of maybe, I thought there would have been an unsportsmanlike on Brandon Lemieux when he dropped his mitts with Yevgeny Svechnikov, but that's just me. Overall, the Jets found a way with an unlikely hero getting them to overtime, and then we talked about this a ton last year, Sean. I loved it when the Jets played 3 forwards. I thought it was an important decision in tonight's game to send out Ehlers to start. We know that it had not been going overly smoothly for either Ehlers or Scheifele. I love that they put put Andrew Kopp out there. I was looking for the right word. I don't think that Swiss Army knife says enough for what Andrew Kopp is doing for the Winnipeg Jets right now. Sending Kopp out on the ice with Mark Scheifele and Nikolai Ehlers ended up being a great decision. Excellent entry, a patient. It's so interesting, Sean. Sorry.
Hold on, Ken. Hold on. I know you love to go to the buffet, but we have people waiting in the
All
waiting
right,
room
all
right
right,
now.
all
I'm
right,
not
all
going to
right.
let you do it.
It was my last point. Thanks for cutting me off.
It was your last point.
It was. I
don't know.
promise. Yes.
It's an entire course of a meal. Your last point. So you know
Hey,
what?
buddy, I want to. Hey, our buddy just called his first Hockey Night in Canada game. I want to roll out the welcome mat right away. I was ready to grab that last chicken wing. That was the last chicken wing at the buffet. I was just about to finish off.
You're still stalling. You're still stalling. So let's do the honorable thing.
Hey, sorry.
Pipe down for a second.
Hey, wake up. Play the headband music and bring Sammy in. Play him the other song that we got. He hasn't heard it yet. Let's go right now.
But let's bring in the main man, the man of the hour, Sammy Cosentino, who is not wearing a scarf, which is, I'm sorry, Sam, it's disappointing some people in the audience. They knew you as the scarf man from last show, and they were fully expecting.
One second.
We got it.
Nicely done.
Sammy will not disappoint. That's perfect.
Exactly. My last point was, what an entry by Nikolai Ehlers. We've heard Pierre-Luc Dubois talk about this so much. The playing fast and slow. Instead of accelerating through, he comes in with the slow entry, draws the defender to him. Kopitar is like a split stick length away from Scheifele. Cross-ice pass. Boom. OT winner.
You know what, Sam, the scarf reveal was something that the audience was clearly waiting for, and I told you about Ken and the buffet. He just couldn't help but go back for another serve. You got up and you walked away from the table, and he grabbed your plate and pulled it over and started eating out of your plate. But Sammy,
well, you know what? When you go to the buffet, you need a drink, boys. So cheers.
There you go.
Cheers to you is right. Cheers, buddy.
This
well,
bud's for you.
Well, you know what, Sammy? Cheers to you. I gotta say, it was a big honor to be able to work your first Hockey Night in Canada game with you. I wouldn't have had it any other way. I'm sure you can think of some other people that you may have wanted to break you in, but I'll tell you, since the first moment I worked with you, you've been one of my favorite people in this industry. So phenomenal job here tonight. You're getting rave reviews from the people on KNR. But how was it? How was the first game?
Yeah, it was cool, man. It's so nice to be in a booth in a live rink doing games. And you know what? Honestly, it was funny because we haven't worked together a lot, unfortunately, and I'd like to do it more. But we had a blast the first time we got together, and it's been pretty fun the last couple of days hanging out with you. And you know, I go back 100 years with Weaver, so it's cool, man. It's cool that it happened here and it happened in a win. And you know, Singer, I had never met before. I'd obviously known who he was, but what an unbelievable partner to work with. So to work with you two guys, and what was really cool for me is Gord Tate, who produced a lot of our CHL games when I was doing those. He produced this game, and so to work my first Hockey Night in Canada game with this group of people was really special. Yeah, really good stuff. Just give us your thoughts on the game and what you saw there tonight, Sammy. I mean, if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan, I think there's a feeling that their team is never out of the game. I think I addressed it earlier on in the show. I talked about the LA Kings and needing to learn from their last game that the Winnipeg Jets are a team you cannot sleep on, and it was a little bit of foreshadowing, and it worked out. But just before we bring Harnarayan in, who's going to join us right here, right away, just your thoughts on another Jets comeback where they've got this ability to kind of look like they're not in the game, and then suddenly they're winning it. Okay, 2 seconds. I got a prop for my answer. Okay, hold on.
Oh, he's got a prop. We're stepping it up here. Here we go. He's got a prop for the answer. I love it. Oh, this is good stuff.
I got to tell you the story, all right? This is the story. I had a buddy of mine who now coaches with the New York Rangers, and they go into Toronto, and they absolutely get pounded and come away with the win. So I texted him after. I said, pretty good win. And he said, ski mask. So I don't have a ski mask, but my description of what the Jets did tonight, ski mask.
There we go.
They stole one. I thought so. I mean, I thought the Kings were absolutely brilliant in this game, and you talked about it, Weaver. Those 3 shots in the second period kind of lulled everyone to sleep, but it was pretty cool to see them just kind of stick with it and took advantage of that opportunity. Andrew Kopp makes the play on the shorthanded goal, which is unbelievable. You go back and watch it, and what he does is he goes wide. He knows Lowry's driving the net, and instead of trying to force that puck through, he's looking over his shoulder the whole time and sees DeMello coming in the rear view mirror. And DeMello would be the last guy you'd expect, but he's smart enough to recognize that he had a step on the defender. And so he too goes to the net. Deneau tried to block it off the stick, and it beats Peterson. So you know what else was pretty cool, guys? Like, I went back and they looked. The last time the Jets faced a right catch starter was pre-COVID. Think about that for a second.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see a ton of them in the league, right? But
Digging deep.
to go that long is crazy. I was working with Ryan Moyer, our stats guy, before the game, and I said, this is, when's the last time they played against a right catch starter? So it was Quick and Goal the last game on the 28th. And before that, I went, they played in the bubble last year. There was only one right catch guy. Lou Domingue played one game, and Hutchinson played a couple for the Leafs, but they hadn't faced it. And then I went back to the season previous to that, and I couldn't find it. So I'm like, wow, it's kind of interesting. So I don't know if that meant anything in the game, but just kind of an interesting stat.
Who was it? Do you know? Did Ryan know who it was?
I couldn't go far enough back.
Oh, gotcha.
So I went back the 2 COVID seasons, and then I had to shut her down because they were dropping the puck.
By the way, we should bring this up while we're here. I'm not sure, you may have seen this online, or I'm not sure where else you'd see it, but Ryan Moore is one of the guys behind those wood jerseys that are decorative for the wall, for people's walls. And Harnarayan will be able to talk about this because Harnarayan's a Calgary guy and he knows Ryan well. Ryan is from Calgary but works a whole bunch of these games. But check those things out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check them out. Those things are sweet. I've been trying to leverage my relationship with him to get a free one, and maybe I should
for the backdrop
and just go pay, for God's sakes. But hey, I don't want to hold him in the waiting room any longer because you never know, Sam. Ken may jump in and start going to the buffet again and take 10 minutes down the road. So let's bring Harnarayan into the game. Who's Harnarayan?
Hey, you're lucky that I'm up here and you're down there. Gloves are coming off, buddy. Gloves are coming off.
You know where I am. Harnarayan, always great doing a game with you. Enjoyed it. Enjoyed the last time you were in the city. Ken and I got to spend some time with you after the game, where we had a lot of interesting people stopping to talk to us. That was a heck of a good time. But you're really becoming an honorary Winnipegger here, and I noticed the weather quite often turns very Winnipeg when you come to town, Harnarayan.
Yeah, well, this time Sam and I were able to find those tunnels that you guys have on the skywalk or whatever you want to call it. But when I was here on Hockey Day in Canada last season, my beard was completely frozen and made for some good pictures, some good TV, and they even threw it up during the game. So it wasn't like that, but of course, yeah, the first snowstorm of the season, and got to see that. We're lucky in Alberta we haven't had that happen yet. But I just want to also say, as you guys were talking about earlier on, Sam Cosentino, one of the most respected individuals in our industry, hands down. Like, there is no question this man knows his junior hockey, but he knows his NHL, as I mentioned on the broadcast, inside out. And I wanted, it's so special to be a part of that moment. Part of this game with you, Sam. I knew right away from seeing the schedule that this was going to be a special game. I was looking forward to working it with you and Sean right away, and it was great. Congratulations, and there's going to be a lot more to come, and just a brilliant job in your first game on color for Hockey Night in Canada. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks, Singer. I appreciate it, boys, and I was singing your praises before you hopped on there. So I can't thank you enough for being a great partner. It's kind of, when you meet someone for the first time, and I'm glad we had a chance to have dinner last night just to kind of get to know you a little bit, right? And then you're hopping in the booth and doing such an important thing, right off the hop. So it took a little while to get going, but I appreciate all the kind words and working with you. It was a blast. And the guy up top in the left corner there, he's always fun to work with. And then you got the mayor of the Winnipeg media there up top. So pretty cool to be hanging out with you guys here tonight too.
Yeah, but I'm trying to replicate. I want to replicate your experience with these guys post game last time around. So let's see what happens after this.
Well, I'll tell you, I said this to Sammy. Sammy said we went out after the last K&R show, and we had like a little power packed about an hour and a half that just ended up being an eventful night. And Sammy texted me and had said, hey, that night really turned into something. And I was like, Sam, every night with you turns into something. That's just how it goes. So I'm looking forward to it tonight. I think we're heading to the Shark Club after this. So if any of you are out there and seeing this and happen to be at the Shark Club, make sure you stop in and say hi.
Nice.
Sammy, I also wanted to say, Harnarayan, I had asked him initially to come on the Kenny and Renny show, and he turned me down because he said, I need to take Sammy out after this to make sure to celebrate this. So it wasn't until I told him that you were already going to be on the show that it was okay. But he was going to make this as special a night as he could have possibly made it for you. Little did he know you can't make it any more special than an appearance on Kenny and Renny afterwards before we go out and do this afterwards.
That's awesome. So I'm going to tell you a quick story, okay? I'm going to tell you a quick story.
Yes, Sammy, what did I tell you after the last one, buddy?
Yeah.
Look what's here. Look what's here. Sam Cosentino's scarf is in the building. Nicely done. I asked for it on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I said to our great fans, don't let me down. There it is. Sam's scarf has arrived.
Unbelievable.
What a moment.
Get this story. My last and only other NHL game was March 1st, 2004 at the Bell Center in Montreal. So I've gone 17 years, 8 months without doing an NHL game, okay? And after that game, speaking of taking out, I was working with Pete Labardius, good friend of mine, in the wedding, one of my best pals. So we go out to, there's the Irish pub close by now. It's been such a long time, I can't remember. But I put away 8 double Jack Daniels, and I was an absolute puddle. I was celebrating because I thought, you know what, this might be the only chance I ever get. And for 17 years, I wasn't wrong. So, Arn, you might be up for a singer. You might be up for a big bill here tonight, buddy.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Harnarayan, once again, people are saying it. Boy, oh boy, awesome job on the OT call here tonight.
Sick.
But the voice is just one part of the complex individual we see sitting in front of us. So I'd like your breakdown of what you saw here tonight from a Jets team that, has this uncanny ability we were talking about to, maybe not look like it's their night and just find a way to make it their night.
Yeah, it just really speaks to the depth. I mean, that's been a narrative we've heard about the Jets for so many seasons, about the depth that they've had. But in previous situations, when you have Scheifele either out of the lineup or, if you were to say that Scheifele and Wheeler were going to be this snake bitten, you would have to assume that the Jets would just be off the rails and nothing would be working. But if you take a look at it, they've got points in 11 of their past 12. 8 of those are victories, and it's because of that depth. And you guys were talking about it earlier with Andrew Kopp. I mean, they're going to have to figure out a way to sign this guy long term. He is, I remember all the talk about when Adam Lowry was going to get re-signed and what his contract was going to be like and how important he was to the team. But Andrew Kopp just might be that much even more important in terms of, you saw Paul Maurice bump Kopp up to that line with Scheifele and Wheeler, and that, Sam, you and I were talking about it in the break. I mean, this is to get those guys going, right? And it's not like Ehlers was doing too much either prior to this game as well. So Andrew Kopp has really proven himself. That depth is there, but it's also the depth on the back end. I just think having the additions of Dylan and Schmidt into the lineup, it gives the rest of the crew that much more confidence. And I think those are kind of the reasons why the Jets have been able to get through this time frame where Scheifele and Wheeler have been, unable to produce. And hopefully this is the start of good things to come for Scheifele.
Yeah, well, he breaks that goose egg. It's funny, we were talking about it in our post-game chat, Ken and I. Scheifele's kind of the expected hero, right? And DeMello, the unexpected hero with, what was it, Ken, 132 games he'd gone without a goal? How about that? That's something else. But I wanted to actually touch on this, Harnarayan and Sam. We were talking before the game about Andrew Kopp, right? And the one thing I was trying to explain was this ability that he has, that the puck moves around and all of a sudden it goes to him and he's not moving his feet, right? And he just kind of slows everything down. It's just like everyone kind of turns towards him. And tonight, that game time goal was the perfect example of that, right? The puck goes over to him, everyone looks that way, and then all of a sudden he finds that streaking guy. He's just, I know that you talked about his vision on the broadcast, Sam. It was on full display here tonight. And to Harnarayan's point, just weapon after weapon after weapon for the Winnipeg Jets. It allows them to find a way, and that's the answer. You ask them how they keep surviving this, that's what they'll say. They're just so deep, they've got so many weapons, someone's going to figure it out. But I don't think you get to that point, and Ken, you'll know what I'm talking about with this. Paul Maurice used to talk a couple of years ago when this team was kind of blowing leads. I think it was around the 2015 season. I'd asked him about blown leads. It may have been a trip to Anaheim you were on. And Paul Maurice took exception to me using that term. And he said, no, you don't blow leads against a team like the Anaheim Ducks. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. But he didn't like that term. He didn't want to face that term. But he used to say about that team when they blow leads, well, the problem isn't that we blew the lead, it's that we didn't get the next one, right? And put that game out of reach. What is it, Ken, that you see in this Jets team that exactly that point, they're not allowing teams to get that next one, to put that game out of reach? Well, what did the Jets do to stay in a game tonight that it did not look like they should be in?
Sean, for me, it's the maturity factor. I think 2 or 3 years ago, when this team was completely a rush team, as Paul Maurice has been talking about for the last 2 weeks, they would get themselves into a situation where they would force a play. You would force a cross ice pass that would get picked off. It would lead to a breakaway. It would lead to a 2-on-1. And then now all of a sudden that 1-goal deficit is 2 goals, and there's this massive deflation. We saw there was some bad body language for the Jets. We knew they were being frustrated by LA, but they didn't open up their game. They didn't cheat the game. They didn't raise their risk profile in this game. They stuck with it, and when they saw an opportunity to join a rush, we talked about Dylan DeMello scoring the goal. That play does not happen without the poise of Logan Stanley finding the aforementioned Andrew Kopp in the neutral zone to create the odd man opportunity. Logan also getting an assist on the first goal from Kyle Connor in a big game for him. But for me, it's all about the maturity of this group. Maybe 2 years ago, this team doesn't win that game. They kind of get frustrated, and then they open things up, and it leads to a goal against. Instead, we see Connor Hellebuyck staying strong. Wasn't overworked, but he did keep his team in it when they were struggling to get offense. And, lo and behold, they found a way to get their skilled players out. They get the game to overtime, and then their skilled players simply took over and found a way to get that extra point, snapping an incredible winning streak for the LA Kings. 7-game run, and they're full value, guys. I mean, I love the Phillip Deneau addition. I know he was on the ice for 2 even strength goals against. Who cares? He's totally changed the dynamic of this team. And Adrian Kempe, man, oh man, what a night for him. I think 5 shots on goal and 11 attempts. He was absolutely flying out there. But yeah, impressive rally by the Jets, who were very disjointed at times in the game, but their puck management allowed them to stay in it, and then they found a way to take advantage on the shorthanded goal, and then their skill kind of took over from there.
Yeah,
Sam,
just want to jump in here on that, just to say that, I mean, if DeMello doesn't score to tie it, I think we're talking a completely different scenario, because Ken, you touched on it a bit. This was a slugfest. This was pretty, dismal for the Jets, especially in that second period with the amount of shots that they had, and it was just not looking good. Like there was a couple of times, Sam, you and I in commercial breaks, I'm looking at my notes and I'm looking at the lineup, and I'm like, if you're Paul Maurice, you really only feel comfortable sending out that Connor line and then Harkins, Kopp, and Lowry. Like the rest of the guys didn't have anything really going for them, and it was pretty concerning, and it was full credit to LA with what they were doing, and it's just amazing to see these guys, the young guys in the lineup, buying into Todd McClellan's system. But then, yeah, it takes the effort from DeMello and the plays on that goal to get them back into it, and then full marks for the Jets. As you said, they didn't open it up. They didn't kind of give up on that game plan, but it was pretty dismal at times, and I was kind of wondering what's going on here, right? And I don't know if we give the COVID factor enough credit. I'm a guy who, November here, mid-November, I'm exactly 1 year from having had COVID, and I'm telling you, like, despite me look in front of you, I'm working away and everything seems normal in appearance, but like I never used to have headaches before, brain fog, fatigue. Like, who knows what the impact is? I know Scheifele didn't have symptoms. Wheeler did, but there could be a COVID impact still with these guys. It's probably going to play a factor it probably is playing a factor in terms of having them not be in a rhythm yet and taking them longer to get going and things like that. But it's good to see Scheifele finally off the schneid, and hopefully that helps.
You know what? I gotta say, I'm completely guilty of taking the COVID stuff and putting it behind me, right? Like once the players are back, to me, they're back, right? And I had never really kind of thought about that, but that's something else. I mean, Mark Scheifele is definitely, and I'd said it to him in the post-game interview I had with him. I said, normally I'd never get to ask you this question because you score so much. A single goal doesn't really seem to mean that much. But I'd asked him, the first thing was like, how did it feel to get that one? Because you could see he was pumped after scoring that goal. But Paul Maurice talked about it after the game. Ken, he wasn't overly impressed with the play of those players leading into that. I mean, Mark Scheifele clearly doesn't beat Brendan Lemieux to the net, chooses to kind of curl back right at the, crucial time to allow him to get to the net. I mean, where do you think Mark Scheifele is in his game right now, Ken?
That was a strange play, guys. For everyone saying that he didn't get back there, he actually hustled to get there and then let up, which is what made the play even more confusing.
Exactly.
Right? And again, I don't want to try to get inside Mark Scheifele's head there, but to me, that was almost an example of the brain fog that Harnarayan was just mentioning, because he knew that he had to get there. He took the burst to get basically within one stride of him, and then he kind of sat back and just left it for him. It was just a very bizarre play. Up until that point, this is what I'm seeing from Mark Scheifele. I'm still seeing effort, but I don't see the explosiveness in his stride that I'm used to seeing. Sam, you've seen this back to his junior hockey days. This guy is an explosive skater. There was a stretch where the puck came through in the neutral zone in the second period, or maybe it was the third. In a normal situation, he accelerates and blows by the guy and makes it a 2-on-1 or gets the puck over. The Kings defender just kind of casually angled him right out of the play. There was no burst whatsoever. So to me, I do think that there are some issues that are lingering. I don't know if it's from COVID or from the Charlie horse after getting banged up with Adam Pelech, but the skating is not there right now, and I think that it's either one of the two things or it may be a combination of both, because I see Mark moving his feet. He's just not getting, to me it's similar, again, completely different, but similar to what was happening with Wheeler at the start of last year when he was playing through the fractured ribs. The feet were moving, but he wasn't getting to the spots that he normally would get to because of the power in the stride. It just isn't there right now. I think that Mark Scheifele will really benefit from the 2 days off between the games. Sunday is an off day, Monday will be a practice day. By Tuesday, Mark's going to need to be going at as close to full speed as possible when the Jets welcome Connor and Leon to town.
You know what, guys, though, the one thing I'll say about that is it's funny because you can break down plays like that, and he hustled back and then he kind of backed off his check, but both goals were the result of effective pinches. When you go back and you think about the first goal, Stanley pinches, chipped out, now you got a partial 2-on-1, and the same thing happened there. Morrissey pitched down on that second goal, and the same sort of thing. You had a partial 2-on-1 situation. Now, you're thinking that if you're playing that style of game where you want your D to pinch, that you hope they're doing it with coverage. But as hard as Scheifele had to get back there to do it, it probably wasn't. The coverage wasn't there for the pinch. Is the point I'm making. So you can break down a play once it gets inside the blue line, but if you roll the tape back a little further, you saw two ineffective pinches that led to the Kings goals.
Well, Ken, we've talked about this on the show recently. The idea that the Jets really do have a pressure style of defense, kind of bottle things up before it gets into your zone. But it does result in that, right? When it doesn't go well, it goes bad really, really quickly. And there was a point tonight. I believe there was a 2-on-1 where who was it? Was it Kempe? You brought up Kempe before. Kempe on one shift goes in on a 2-on-1 and leaves the puck behind, circles back, picks it up, comes back in, and then leaves it behind again. I don't know if there was still a wet patch on the ice there, but
I know that's what it looked like.
There definitely seems to be with the Winnipeg Jets that when it works because they keep the pressure on. They've got and Sam, I thought one of my favorite conversations that we heard in Paul Maurice's office today was the one where you brought up the way that team churns. I wonder if you wanted to talk, just give a little bit of your account of your conversation with Paul Maurice about how the Winnipeg Jets do that and why it's so effective for them.
Well, it's interesting because, I said in the broadcast, the ultimate goal is to play what I would consider a hybrid offense. So Sometimes you can define a team by being a rush team. Sometimes you can define a team by being a cycle team. And so Paul Maurice felt that there's been parts of that going back and forth with this team over his course of coaching. But the way he looks at this roster composition, he feels now that they can be that hybrid team where, yep, they're really effective off the rush. They can skate and create plays off the rush, but also use some of the size and the playmaking ability. Maybe it's Connor, maybe it's Pierre-Luc Dubois, maybe it's Scheifele, Wheeler, whatever the case might be, and the top of the smarts, where they can continue to have offensive zone time, churn the puck, meaning cycle. But as you do that, the basic premise behind it is you're trying to squish the defense back behind the tops of the circles. And if you can do that effectively, it opens up the lane to get it back to the point. You'd expect your defenseman to be back there to have lanes open to get it back to the net and hope you're either going to get a good clear shot on goal, a tip, or you might be there to create the rebound. And there was one point, Singer, if you'll remember, we showed a replay where exactly that happened. There was work behind the net with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Svechnikov, and there were 5 Kings in the picture, all below the dot. And I think it was Dubois who was able to free the puck. They got it back to the point. It ended up being a shot that was tipped that created a really good opportunity. But that's the idea behind the hybrid offense is, yeah, you want to be able to attack, counterattack, neutralize, spin it back the other way, and create chances off the rush. But when you can't do that, or when that's being bottled up like the Kings did, taking away a lot of that neutral zone ice, you want to be able to get it deep, pound the defenseman, churn it around a few times, get everyone to squish back towards the goalie, and then move it back to the point, and hopefully you're creating offense that way. So it's that hybrid offense, I think, is the ultimate goal for this group.
Harnarayan, I love the fact that so many Canadian teams are doing well this year, and I love the fact that you get to cover so many of them. I wanted your opinion on kind of where you see the Winnipeg Jets in the grand scheme of things right now. You've had a couple of healthy doses of them, seen some of the other teams. Where do you think the Jets rank amongst the contenders, not just in Canada, but in the league right now?
Yeah, you know what? In terms of Canadian teams, Calgary, I think, surprised everybody going on their heater, and I'm not sure everybody was expecting them to be able to score the way they have been. And Mangiapane has just been such a huge, a blessing for them in terms of after his World Championship, he's just carried over from there. And they're showing a few signs of slowing down here, but in terms of the Edmonton Oilers who are coming to town, and that'll be a fun home and home. We don't get to see that too often. We got that, last year, obviously, with the Canadian division, but a nice rematch there. And obviously with McDavid and Draisaitl playing the way they are, and added depth in their forward ranks as well with Warren Fogle and Derek Ryan coming in, it's completely changed that team as well. Cody Ceci bringing the experience as well as Keith. So you take a look at the Jets and you compare that to those Western Canadian teams. We all know what's happened with Vancouver, Ottawa. And then so I would put the Jets right up there with the Oilers in terms of for Canada's chances. I think the Oilers and the Jets are the top 2 teams in Canada. And, the Maple Leafs fans will have something to say about that, but they've got a bunch to figure out on their own too. But I just think that the Jets also have the playoff experience. You have to have several, it's a cliche in hockey. You have to have disappointment in the playoffs to understand what it takes to win. And I think the Jets, we're looking at the lineup, Sam, you and I, comparing it to LA, and this is a pretty veteran group now. You got Logan Stanley, who's a solid, he was in and out of the lineup last season, but he's pretty much in, and he had a good game, I thought, as well tonight. And so with the additions of Dylan and Schmidt, I think this group is ready to take that next step. And if you would have put this lineup in against Montreal, it might have been a different situation last year in the playoffs. I know Lewis and Thompson are veterans who, especially on the penalty kill, it's kind of a big loss for the Jets. But I really think the Schmidt and Dylan and then also one thing we haven't talked about, which needs to be mentioned, is Pierre-Luc Dubois is a completely different player, in my opinion, last season to this season. I mean, when he's out there, the way he's playing with confidence, driving to the net, controlling, protecting the puck, that's such a big difference from last year to this year too. So I say the Jets are a strong candidate from Canada, right up there with the Oilers.
You know what? I'm a big fan, or I shouldn't say fan, but I really like what the Oilers did in the offseason. I thought going and getting Hyman was exactly what they needed to do. I thought Fogle was a great pickup. I was a little worried once they lost Larson, but it sure seems, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Harnarayan, but it sure seems like Bouchard has very capably stepped into that role. I think the thing that surprised me when I've seen their highlights is they're not just kind of using him in situations where they're sending him out to score a goal, but like he's protecting leads at the end of the game. They've got him in really, really important spots out there. So I like what they've done. I think both these teams too have positioned themselves really well. And I guess, there would need to be some injuries. Ken, tell me if I'm wrong here, for the Jets to be able to create some room to get in there and try and make some moves at the deadline. But I think both these teams are in the position to maybe add a little bit of depth at the trade deadline. That's what's been missing so long, in my opinion, from the Oilers. I don't know if goaltending it wasn't their issue when they lost in the playoffs last year, but I think we, can think with Mike Smith at his age that you'd have to worry about that. There's potential for that to cost them. And I don't know if I'm a believer in Koskinen at all. But both these teams, Ken, I do see as being in a situation where they could add at the trade deadline and really add exactly what both teams need, because the nucleus is there and strong on both these teams.
Yeah, well, creativity is going to need to be required in both cases, Sean. I mean, even too, they would need LTIR, or the money in, money out is going to be tough. The Jets don't really have a lot of money that they can move out in order to bring in that depth. I think that some of the depth will come internally. We talked about David Gustafsson a ton. Sam is very familiar with him from the World Juniors. I think that it's more likely that you could have Gustafsson slide into the fourth line center role. But yeah, I mean, can the Jets find an Eric Stahl type of guy, Sean? I mean, I don't think they're going to find a Corey Perry, but can they find a veteran on close to an entry level or league minimum type of deal? That would be something too. Like, I mean, it's not going to be Pat Maroon, but someone like Pat Maroon. Sean, I know you've talked about this a lot. You think the Jets need a little bit more grind to their game in order, they have some guys that can churn with speed, but they need a couple more guys that maybe you could. I mean, we saw it tonight, and I actually agree completely with what Paul Maurice had said, and I've discussed this with you, Sean. I love Svechnikov with Lowry, big-bodied guy, but a trigger man to be playing with him on that line. I want to see more of that. But I know what you mean. If they want to go deep in the playoffs, if they want to knock out teams like Colorado, like Edmonton, like Vegas, whoever gets to that Western Conference final, Minnesota, even with the Foligno line, with what they've been getting done from Joel Eriksson Ek, bigger bodies. I mean, they'll definitely be looking. I just don't know. The maneuverability is going to be limited, and Sean, you weren't at dinner last night, unfortunately, but we were discussing this. Ryan, why don't you share your thoughts on the potential for maybe Marc-Andre Fleury being in the mix for the Oilers to maybe, to be a guy who either takes over the net or at least is there as a great safety valve in case something happens with Mike Smith?
Well, everybody talks about Mike Smith's age, and age in terms of his performance it's a non-factor, and he talked about it in the off season too. He's like, it's not like I aged 10 years in one season, right? I mean, he was stellar last season, and Jets fans know, I mean, those games, even though it was a 4-game sweep, they were close, and 3 of them in overtime. And so for Smith, it's not about the performance, it's about the injury factor. And he was injured to start last season as well, where Koskinen had to carry the load at the beginning. And now here, he's injured again. He had a setback. He had to travel back to Edmonton on the road trip that they were on. And so I think it opens the door, and I think it forces Edmonton to have to consider what goalies are available. And if you're Marc-Andre Fleury, such a classy individual, check it out, the beard, eh? I'm ready for the playoffs all the time, by the way, right?
You're officially one of us. You are officially one of us. You have your own handle.
Nice.
That's awesome. The playoff beard is ready to go. Yeah. So, Marc-Andre Fleury, he's been one of the best guys I've ever had the privilege of dealing with in the NHL. He's just a fantastic individual. And I would have to think, if you're on kind of the the later part of your career, maybe thinking about retirement, do you really want to stick it out in that situation in Chicago, as bad as it is this season? I would be talking to my agent if I'm Marc-Andre Fleury. I'd be talking to the Hawks saying, hey, if there's a way you can please get me out of this mess. And the Oilers, I think, would have to do some sort of maneuvering under the cap, as you mentioned, similar situation with the Jets. But yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury, it would be a huge upgrade in terms of just because of the fact that Mike Smith, in terms of his injury and the age factor there, not performance-wise.
Ken, you can unmute your microphone.
Yeah,
now.
you need to fess up right now before you put that, you highlighted that comment. You've been taking enough shots at me. You need to tell the truth right now. I did arrange the dinner at Nicolino's. Thank you so much to Nick and the staff. Fantastic dinner. You were missed, but do not let waiters think you were not invited.
No, I was invited. In fact, I was going, but when it came down to, and this is like a little peek into the Reynolds household, my wife is one of those people who is very stringent about times that we do certain things at certain times a year. So she, and before last game, before Ken hopped on the show, I talked a little bit about Remembrance Day. It means a lot to us. Like I said, my grandfather was a veteran, wounded in the war. My wife's grandfather was a veteran, wounded in the war. His life ended a little bit early because of it. She never got to meet her grandfather. But that means something in our house. But the moment that Remembrance Day is over, I get sent downstairs and I unpack all the Christmas stuff and we decorate the house. Now, I had a health issue last year that kept me from doing that. And my kids are kind of right at that age where they're still interested in doing this, but it's probably not going to be much longer before they're just like, you guys just decorate the stuff and we'll come home. I want to go hang with my friends right now. So I'm when it comes to my kids, I'm trying to soak up every last moment. So I did that.
As you should.
We were supposed to be going out. I hate turning down an opportunity to spend time with Harnarayan and Sam. They're two of my favorite people in this industry. I'm going to make it up to them tonight. But last night I thought about it and I was going to leave. And then I thought, you know what? I can't do this. I just got to spend time with the kids and the family. So yeah, Ken, I know I like to paint you like the bad guy every once in a while, but Ken took great steps to make sure that I was going to be there and involved, and I was the one who turned him down. So I'm sorry.
The truth was, you did have the invite, but we were at Nicolino's and Weber invited you to the cake.
Oh man!
Oh, this is solid.
Bring that up.
Sammy, just before I try to restore order here, we've talked a lot about Josh Morrissey. You've known him for a long time in terms of watching his game. What are you seeing in Josh Morrissey this year?
Yeah, I think I see a guy who understands that the group around him is allowing him to kind of just settle in and do his thing and not do too much. Yeah, he got caught maybe on that on the pinch on the second goal there, but when I look at him, you think about leadership, you think about character, you think about great skating ability, good first pass guy, ability to join the rush. Got a little excited at one point there and joined the rush and got caught, I think, down in the offensive zone maybe too long. But you have to love this guy. Like when I go back and think about dealing with him when he was in junior, playing in Prince Albert and playing with the Kelowna Rockets after, I thought about, man, this would be a guy you'd want on your team, and probably a guy who somewhere down the road is going to be wearing a letter. And I know it was a difficult year last year. I had met Tom at some point throughout our journey in the CHL, and that loss surely was extremely difficult for him to play with. But when I look at him now as a player this year, some time has passed to allow him to grieve and to heal. And so the mindset, I think, is a lot better. But when I look at this guy and what he brings to the table, it's irreplaceable. Tons of minutes, great skater, good puck mover, joins the rush, settled his game down. I like where he's at right now. And, a lot of that has to do with the partnership that he has with Schmidt right now. And he's settling in, someone that they're learning to read off each other and play in a way that makes them a really effective top pairing.
You know what, Harnarayan, I'm very happy that you brought up earlier on the fact that, we're talking with the chat room like this, talking about this game, talking about this great game, great comeback by the Jets, but the story could have been very different. And part of that story, and Ken, we gotta get into this, is the constant kind of line juggling that Paul Maurice has been doing to try and basically get, he can say whatever he wants. In my mind, every move that is made has been an attempt to get Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler going. And I asked him about it afterwards, and again, he took exception to the way I framed the question.
He did, yes.
Clearly, you're still looking for answers, and he didn't like that. He didn't like it saying that we're looking for answers.
I'm not looking for answers, Sean.
No, exactly. It's great. I love Paul Maurice. He handles that stuff great. But his idea was that everything's constantly moving, it's constantly evolving. Although he did bring up the fact that he could solve everything just by taking Kyle Connor and putting him back on a line with those two players. But are we at the stage where we need to have concerns about how the top 9 fit? Because it seems like they're one guy away, and maybe Stastny's that guy, although they were struggling with this before Stastny went out. But it always seems like they're that one guy away from making all 3 lines fit. We keep talking about the potential depth for this team, the 3-headed monster they would be offensively if they got those lines going. We have yet to see a game so far this season where all 3 lines have been going.
Yeah, it's interesting, Sean. Paul Maurice is looking for solutions. He's not looking for answers. He has a lot of the answers. He's looking for solutions. And right now, we're 2 or 3 games away from us raving about the incredible balance on the Jets roster. I don't think that we can diminish what kind of games the Islanders and tonight the Kings are playing defensively, and it can make it tough. It doesn't matter if you even have 3 balanced lines. It's tough to generate offense against those kind of teams. Do I think the Jets have found the magic potion for the 3 lines yet? No. We know why that is. They have 3 offensive players who are not producing at the levels we are used to seeing them produce at. So in order to try to keep guys together but still get other guys going, that turn of the blender, it's not always going to hit, right? Somebody sent a great GIF on Twitter to me today during the game. They showed a shot of the blender where the person forgot to put the lid on the blender, and then the smoothie comes out all over the coach. So, that's what, it doesn't always give you the perfect smoothie that I can send with Harnarayan after breakfast at the Delta, right? The smoothie's not always clicking perfectly with the blender turn. Do we know what the best line, the 9 is? What we know is for sure that Stastny is part of that 9, but where the other pieces fit is interesting to see. And again, the chat room's been buzzing. And yes, I think the Charlie horse is still a major factor for Scheifele. And we also know Nikolai Ehlers is not as explosive as we're used to seeing. And we know he left practice early and that he's dealing, had a little bit of a slight illness the one day, but it looks like he's dealing with some kind of lower body issue. I don't know if it's a groin injury or something else, but until those players get to full speed, we don't know what the perfect combination is. But what I do like, Sean, and I know you like it too, I like that Paul Maurice split up Wheeler and Scheifele because it was time for them to take a break. It was time for them to take a break from one another. You can ask Frank Kaler, my math teacher. I had to take a couple of the math courses more than one time, but I ended up with an A in the course. So that was a good use of my year after graduation before I went to university. But what I do know is that if you're looking to get Mark Scheifele to 20 or 21 minutes, and if your peak efficiency for Blake Wheeler is 17 or 18, it's hard to accomplish both goals if you have them playing side by side. So to me, the fact that they were able to split them up, and this is not to say they can't ever play together again, because at some point, inevitably, they will. But right now, I like that they split them up, and I like that he put him with Pierre-Luc Dubois, who, Sean, you've been banging the drum on this for quite some time. Wheeler and Dubois had some success last year in terms of some chemistry together. Try them together. And I love that he had Ehlers with Scheifele and Kopp. That's one of the lines that I've wanted to see for quite some time. And Paul Maurice did say he was probably going to start Tuesday's game with these units. And he doesn't need my stamp of approval, but I'm certainly putting it down.
Sure helps, Ken. Sure helps.
Oh,
Get
yeah.
that,
The bear.
Yeah, because I look for solutions when you look for answers, buddy.
I think they're the same thing, and you're just falling for word soup, Ken Weeb. I'm glad you brought up the Scheifele and the wheels thing, because that's what I was going to say. To me, that's progress. The fact that he took a turn of the blender and that stone of frozen berries at the bottom that is Mark Scheifele.
Blackberry, that's a blackberry right there, stuck in your teeth. That one's stuck in your tooth.
Not willing to pull apart. I'm glad that he finally did that, but I'm not sure that I don't want to be, well, never mind. That's what we're here for. We're here to give our opinion. I just don't like that he took Wheeler and put him up onto the line that had worked so well all night. Like, I had thought that line looked dangerous and had gone up quite often against Anze Kopitar. And I don't know, maybe Anze Kopitar was a little bit slow. We did say that, Sam, you talked a little bit. I don't know if you brought it into the broadcast, but I heard you talking about it in between plays. Like, they had travel issues. They were late into town. I was talking to people off the LA broadcast. There was every excuse for that LA team to come in here tonight and not give their best. And who knows, maybe they did run out of juice right at the end of the game as they were starting to take things over. But I thought that top line looked great. Why are we breaking up that top line to find a place for Blake Wheeler when that line worked? Had a goal earlier in the evening and has been working this entire time. So to me, I think one of the reasons why that Paul Maurice has had to be on the search for solutions, not answers, but solutions, as long as he's been searching for solutions, is the fact that he's got this block that he's working everything around. And I think, to me, I can't think anything other than the fact, Ken, that, I said it in my opening tonight, Ehlers hasn't had the start that everyone was hoping for. Wheeler's hasn't had that start. Scheifele hasn't had that start. So throw them all together on a line and let's see if you can light the powder keg like that. Well, when it didn't work, guess who got moved off that line right away? Nick Ehlers was the guy. And so Nick Ehlers gets cycled through that on a way to trying to find solutions for that line. Really, we end up finding the solution for Mark Scheifele anyways, to get him on the board when you get him out with two really fast young players. And we know Paul Maurice says that's from a long time ago, Ken. You can't apply that now. You got to manage these comments honestly if you're going to do that. But Mark Scheifele, Paul Maurice will tell you, is the fastest member of the Winnipeg Jets. He just doesn't show it as often. But my take is if you're trying to get a guy going, you want to get him up to speed. Well, that's why it worked tonight. He got onto a line with Nick Ehlers and Kyle Connor and those guys, Andrew Kopp, and those guys got up to speed, and that's why that worked out the way it did tonight. Guys, Harnarayan or Sam, do you want to weigh in on this?
I'm just going to say that I actually thought about using this on the air and I didn't, but I might as well now. But you make chutney in a blender, so it's Maurice needs to put the lines in the blender and make some chutney out of them.
There you go.
Mango chutney, baby, mango. Let's go.
Right with the samosas.
Yeah. Hey, Ken, I'm going to leave the floor to you to see if there's anything else you want to talk about before we go. I'm okay with shutting it down a little bit early tonight because I think we got a little something to do after the show.
Well, also, too, something I don't think it should be lost here. It's interesting. There was a little bit of debate on the first goal. It is a very good shot, a perfect shot. What I don't like is that Hellebuyck went down and allowed a good shot to be an even greater shot. I know it's part of I'm not telling Connor Hellebuyck how to play goal. He can handle that on his own. But I felt as though if he stands up in his stance, it probably just hits him in the shoulder. It's still a perfect shot, don't get me wrong, but I think it's one just because of Hellebuyck's reaction. He was shocked. Like, he was looking. We've seen this look in practice, Sean, right? This is one of the best parts of the behind-the-curtain look. In practice, when he looks up to the glove, yet the puck is not in it. He is genuinely shocked that it's not in there. He cannot believe that someone had the audacity to beat him with the shot because he thought the positioning was perfect. But what we're seeing from Connor Hellebuyck since the Pushnevich goal through the wickets, that was a tough one, obviously, one that he wouldn't have liked, but he's had a very calming effect on the Jets in the rest of that game against the Blues, in the game against the Sharks, and again in the game against the Kings here this evening. When Connor Hellebuyck is giving up 2 or fewer, the Jets have a very good chance, because we know there aren't going to be a ton of nights where they don't score 3 a night. That's just, they have a potent attack, and tonight was another great example where they found a way to get to 3, and that's not possible if your goaltender is not providing solid goaltending. We know that Comrie was very good in his 4 starts, but the Jets need peak Connor Hellebuyck in order to keep hanging tough in the top of the Western Conference, because we know there's a lot of great teams, and some teams we weren't expecting to be good have worked themselves in the mix, and some of those other teams like Colorado and Vegas that haven't had the starts we expected are going to figure it out. So it's going to be a slog in the Western Conference, and they need elite level goaltending right now, and they're getting it.
Harnarayan, Sammy, any parting thoughts?
Well, I'd say this, like as an outsider, and I see this in the market I work in all the time. Everyone's so, like the fan base, everyone's so engaged, and they're, every little thing is broken down, and every little thing that happens is creates some sort of drama. But if sometimes you have to remove yourself from that, and so I'll say this from a Toronto perspective, Toronto's a really good hockey club. Now, that's not to say that they're going to go and win in the playoffs or win a round, which they haven't done in 100 years. So on, they're a really good hockey club. So you kind of have to enjoy the ebbs and flows of the season. 2 weeks ago they were saying, "Oh my God, what's going on here? They're losing too many games. Sheldon Keefe's going to get fired." Toronto's a good hockey club. So when I look at Winnipeg, and breaking it down with you guys over the last couple of times, what you have to realize is if you take a step back amidst all the fandom and all the opportunity that you guys are so engulfed into it all the time, I look at the goaltending position, there's not too many better. I look at the back end and think that Dylan DeMello's a 5 guy with Logan Stanley. That's pretty good. I love the top 4. I look at the depth of lines, think about the emergence of Andrew Kopp. I think about how Svechnikov has played well and he's fit in. Is he going to be a top-line guy the whole year? Probably not. I think if Kyle Connor, this guy is like the 6th or 7th best sniper in the last 4 years in the entire league. And yes, put him in the conversation with Matthews, McDavid, Draisaitl, Pasternak. He's that good. And then I think about Scheifele when he's at the top of his game. Wheeler's always produced points. This is a good team. This is a really good team. So sometimes everyone gets so engaged and engulfed in it that you can't take that step back. And so I encourage all the people that are here tonight to take a step back and appreciate what you have. This is a really good hockey club. And while it may be in the conversation with Toronto and Edmonton as the best in Canada, what you have right here, you should be happy to be in that conversation, because I do believe of those 3 teams, there's only this much of a gap between the 3 of them. So this is a really good team. It is.
Ryan?
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you made, Sam. It is a really good team, and I just look at the penalty kill to start the season, and everybody was on it. I mean, earlier on, there's people talking about Paul Morrissey and his situation. It is an 82 game season. Great team, great coach. I would say one of the best in the league. And they're going to figure it out, right? I mean, it is a long process, and just like the penalty kill, how atrocious it was, it's starting to get better. New personnel, there's a bit of a fit factor, right? Everybody getting used to one another. And I mean, I think they can also feel that there's something special brewing here in terms of when you hear Blake Wheeler answer the question like he did yesterday in terms of what are your thoughts on the team so far this season, you can tell that he is, he's appreciative of what the team did in the offseason and who they brought in. And I think the players who already perform really well and already put up points and they're used to doing that, the way that they're going to feel more motivated is what off-season moves are made, and I think those were the right ones for the Jets. And I think let's be patient and see what this team can do. It's really good on paper, and I think look at what they've done in the last 12 games. You have points in 11 of your past 12. It needs to be appreciated for sure.
Great words, guys. Really appreciate it. It's been said time and time again in the chat. You guys were phenomenal on the broadcast tonight, and it's been said time and time again in the chat that people believe this is probably the best K&R we've ever had. I think I would agree. I know, Ken, it meant less trips to the buffet for you tonight, but I think your points for 60 were great tonight, my friend. Great work.
You know what, Sean, I'm always trying to evolve. You know, I was never known as much of a Corsi type of player, but I'm trying to evolve. You know, 46 years old now. We're doing our best. Entering the third decade in the media business, trying to get better each and every day. You know what? Just like Mark Scheifele, trying to add layers to my game, trying to find new ways to score. Just like Kyle Connor, dragging an opponent to the net against the Sharks. That's what we're trying to do here.
The mayor.
You were an onion tonight. Many layers, my friend. Great job. And the chat room, boy, oh boy, you brought it tonight, as you always do. I think you were even a step up tonight, and I'm sure our guest has something to do with that. But thank you so much for joining us, everybody. If you liked what you saw, go leave a comment, click like, subscribe if you haven't. I don't know what you're waiting for. Ken, last thing, do we have ice tickets that we need to give away?
Yep. Be sure to send me a note on the DMs or by email, kenjr@shaw.ca. We'll have 2 pairs of tickets for tomorrow night's game against the Saskatoon Blades, 5 p.m. start. Be sure that you can attend. We want to make sure people are using those tickets if they want to sign up for the contests, please.
Another win for them tonight, 4-1.
Exactly. Great analysis, great guess, and we're going to give you free tickets to go see the best junior hockey team in the country right now. I hope you felt you got value tonight, because if you didn't, I don't know what's wrong with you. You did. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Guys, I'm going to see you later tonight. Now the night begins. See you later, everybody.